lost my mind, can't help but cry. Oh,
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Sand Journals. I'm your host, Seti Matua. And today I have a very special guest to me personally. And looking forward to have a wonderful conversation with Noelani Ioane. Before we get into the questions and our conversation, I just wanted to, if it's okay with you, Noi, just send out a heartfelt prayer and my love to the family of Robert Schwalger Sr., who passed today in Samoa. And Noi, I know you have some thoughts about this man, but remember his kindness, his intellect, his fairness, his humility, and just his servant leadership while he was kind of already started, while he was in an administrator role at CCWS, which is now Pesenga High School. And we love you, Auntie Rita, and Clarence and Frida and Patti, all of you Schwalgers. We love you very much and are thinking of you during this difficult time.
Wow, Seti, way to get me started. I'm already crying. So I hadn't heard about Brother Schwalger, and what a wonderful man. You know, I have some really fond memories and even fonder memories of Clarence and Frida and Bati. Clarence especially. Oh my gosh. We
Yeah.
won't embarrass you, Clarence, telling you those stories on here, but we love you guys and wish you all the best and know that we send our prayers and love to all of you. Doesn't matter
Yes.
how far apart we are, we're still family, you know?
Yeah.
We still have
Or
those
how much
connections.
time has passed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
So,
thank you, Noy, for joining me today. Sorry for starting off on that note.
no,
Probably should
no,
have
it's
left that
okay.
until later, but it
No,
just
it was a good way to
felt,
start. A good reminder that we're all in this together, and it doesn't matter how far apart we are; those bonds are still there.
yeah. And it's ironic. I guess I can see the irony in the fact that one educator has passed beyond the veil, but we still have you as an educator. So I believe nothing happens by coincidence. This conversation was meant to happen today, and look forward to this conversation as well. So, no, I'll give you some time to just introduce yourself to the listeners and share whatever you'd like to share with them, and then we'll move right into some questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Noelani Ioane. My dad liked long Hawaiian names, and I got the brunt of it. But I've always gone by Noelani, and I just noticed that on the screen I only put Noelani. And one of the things that I've done since I became an administrator in the high school is I tell the kids to call me Noelani. And I tell them in Samoan culture, you call adults by their first name. And I invite them to do that because I feel like it builds a bond or, and I tell them it's only for me. You don't get to call any other person in the building by their first name, just me. But I'll walk down the halls and they'll be like, hey, Noelani, and they think they're getting away with stuff. But it's just because I think it makes it so they feel I'm more approachable. Anyway, as Seti said, I graduated from the LDS Church school system. I started off at Pesenga Elementary, but I did take a little hiatus and went to Apia Primary and Nefifi Intermediate School before my dad was asked to go to Loyola and start the high school there. So we spent 3 years there, and my dad was my principal for Form 3 and Form 4, and then we came back to Pesenga and graduated from the Church College of Western Samoa, which is now what, Pesenga High School? Is that what they're calling it now?
I believe so, yeah.
That's crazy to me. I was just telling the kids at school the other day that I'm currently at Copper Hills High School, and I told them if we were in Samoa, this would be Copper Hills College. So I thought that was funny. But I also went to Snow College and then to Utah State, and I got a bachelor's in mathematics education with a minor in biology. And then I got my master's degree later from the University of Utah in secondary teaching with an emphasis in mathematics. And then I was encouraged to become a high school administrator. So I got my administrative certification through Utah State University, and I've been an assistant principal now for 5 years. Becoming an educator was kind of a funny journey because my mom was my home ec teacher and my dad was my principal, and I always swore
Right.
I was never going to be a teacher. And never say you're never going to do something because then you end up doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But when I was going to college, I was like, oh, I don't know. I started off thinking I wanted to be an engineer, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. And so I thought, well, we got to teach. And then what could I teach? My favorite subject in high school was English. I mean, we had Sister Hunt. Man, that lady was just phenomenal. I
Yeah.
still think about, the things I learned from her, the books that I read in her class, that Cry the Beloved Country still has a special place in my heart. And
Yeah.
all the other teachers that were so impactful, like Brother Auva'a and Brother Schwalger and
Yeah.
Brother Atoa, who was our accounting teacher, and
Accounting teacher. Yeah.
Brother
Yeah.
Fata, who was our, religion teacher. And I mean, the list goes on and on. I could go all the
Yeah.
way back to elementary school and some of those, teachers that had such an
Sister
impact.
Pereira was the
Sister Pereira,
mathematics teacher.
she's
Yeah.
the one that Sister Rasmussen, I thought about how impactful they were and how much they made it seem so easy to understand what they were talking about. They were just such good teachers. So anyway, when I decided to be a teacher, I started looking at, well, what kind of job opportunities are there? And
Yeah.
there was a shortage of math teachers, and I thought, yeah, I can do math. But the interesting thing to me was, we graduated, we came from a school system in a third world country, right? I didn't see very much that I hadn't seen in high school mathematics until maybe my second semester of calculus.
Yeah.
And it just really gave me a lot of confidence because I thought, wow, I am so much better prepared than I thought I was going to be. Because I was really intimidated when I started at Snow. So I was 24. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go in here and all these little Parangi kids with their sharp minds, and I'm just going to be, drowning. And I remember, the first few classes I took, like, wow, this is doable. And I had a writing class that I had to take, and the the instructor handed back our first big paper that we wrote, and he told me, "Wow, you write really well." And I thought, "That's kind of a backhanded compliment, you know?" It was, now I didn't it just made me feel like, it was kind of a microaggression. I was like, "What, I
Yeah.
write really well for a little Samoan girl? What you saying here, man?" But then it just really lit a fire under me to be like, "Yes, Eva, ayala,
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you what this Samoan girl can do." And it really did well, really excelled academically in Snow and then at Utah State too. So I felt like, wow, I really felt confident because of how well prepared I think that my experiences, especially at Paisena,
Yeah.
were. Doing all those school certificate class and UE classes,
Yes.
they were a really solid foundation. And I think that our graduates from there sometimes underestimate themselves on how well prepared really they are.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that's
It's
been
funny you bring
interesting.
that up, Noe,
Yeah.
because I had similar experiences when I came back from Pesena. And if you remember me,
Mhm.
Noelani and I go way back, but you remember me in school. I was good at most of the artsy type classes.
Uh-huh.
But when it came to math, I was literally the worst in class. And I would sit there so frustrated, and the teachers would be like, you know how you had to prove that you came
Uh-huh.
to that answer and you had to
Yeah.
write everything out as part of your homework? I didn't even go that far. I would just write something down and say, that's my answer.
Yeah.
That's how bad I was. And I realized in that moment how advanced the mathematics and science classes were in Samoa. I mean, they really made you think about it. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were uh, the scholarship programs in Samoa were very competitive, so you had to be on the top of your game. And I was just so impressed by so many people in our age groups because they were so whip smart. I think they were taking mathematics classes that you would typically hear in the United States. We were taking college level mathematics in
Absolutely.
high school. We
Absolutely.
definitely were. It was tough.
I know that because since I taught math, I've taught concurrent enrollment mathematics, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what we used to do with Sister Pereira, Form
Yeah.
5,
Right.
10th, 11th
Yeah.
grade age. But
Yeah.
yeah, the other thing that was always been interesting to me is the amount of critical thinking that we were encouraged to do
Yes. Yeah.
as students in Samoa. And it wasn't just like, for example, history with Brother Acha, you know.
Yes. Brother
It
Achong,
wasn't
yeah.
it wasn't a
It was not a walk in the park.
not just regurgitate dates and, this happened on which it was like, why did this happen and why was this significant? And what impact did this have on this event? And, it was like all of that
Exactly.
critical thinking. And that's something I think is really critical for our kids today because we live in an information overload society now. And if
Yeah.
kids can't think critically about the information that they're being bombarded with, then they're going to be in a world of hurt and be easily
100%.
be easily led down whatever path that influencer wants you to be led down. you know?
Percent. Yep. I think of that often, our experience in Samoa, and you bring up that class. That was one of the classes that I loved the most. I just became a history buff because
Mhm.
of the things that I learned in Brother Ah Chong's class.
Yeah.
It also translated to, I remember thinking, why do we have a geography class?
Uh-huh.
And then realized that what you were learning in history was relevant in the way that you looked at
And the
people
way
and
that
places and
countries
cultures. Yeah,
those borders were drawn, right? And
exactly.
why does Tahiti speak French?
Yes.
You know, and
Yep.
that kind of thing. Yeah, it all has to do with the history. But I was just thinking about this the other day, and there's that quote from Winston Churchill about something along the lines of those who fail to learn history are doomed to relive it. You know,
Absolutely.
and like,
Yep.
we're seeing a little bit of that today.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Both,
I don't want to offend anybody politically, but there are some scary parallels that I see because we studied the events leading up to World War II and
yeah,
not Germany and all the colonial powers and all the things that were going on in the world at that time. And I was like, wow, that rhetoric sounds kind of familiar.
but it's
That
funny that you bring up.
strategy sounds familiar. Let's just demonize people so that we can blame them for all the ills that are happening or not
Yes.
happening, you know, and
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe is, I don't know if it's ingrained in us, as Polynesians. I know specifically because of our experiences from Samoa. You talk about critical thinking. We are naturally skeptics,
yeah.
and we don't take answers at its face value. We
Uh-huh.
have to explore and understand if this is actually the truth. And I think that's just been something that I have been very grateful for because you couldn't get away with just saying whatever in Samoa. You had to
Yeah.
have logic, reason, and backing. Yeah.
Plus, it's such a small place that, it's like, yeah, fake yourself. Where do you come with
Yeah.
that? How do you know
Yeah.
that's true? You know? That's
Yeah. Who'd you
when
hear
you tell
that
somebody,
from?
"Hey, I heard that blah blah blah." And, the first thing you hear is, it's not, "Oh, really?" It's always, "And where did you hear that?" And who, it's like
What's
you
your
said,
source?
that skeptical. But that I don't know if this is the flip side, but another aspect of our culture, I think, as Samoans that has always been, I feel like, a strength for me, especially in my job, is that those forming relationships with people and working with people and being accepting of people and loving people, right? I remember my auntie Malama would say, Alofa, Famangalo, Mosai, Stacy,
Yes.
Stacy, they're not different from us. And I used to get so irritated, but now that I'm older, I say that all the time. They're not
Yeah.
somebody else. The other thing too I'm really grateful for was, growing up in Samoa, especially is we had the opportunity to get to know a lot of different people from all over the world. Do you remember
Yes.
in our ward in Lima at that one point, I think we had like people from like 25 different countries in our ward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we even had that one gentleman that would come to Sunday at church every Sunday, and he was from Japan. Do you remember him?
Yeah. And
And
he
he
would
didn't
just sit
speak
there
any English.
quietly.
He would
Yeah.
just sit there with his scriptures and, and he was trying to learn a little bit of English and Samoan, and I just thought, "Wow, he's really making an effort," you know? But even when I was at the Leififi and up here primary, I had classmates who were from London and Africa and the
Yeah.
Philippines, and we had
India.
classmates who were from India and Australia and New
Yeah.
Zealand, and you got to know that, we're all human beings. And that's something I think that's really guided me in my career as an educator is I really truly believe that we're all God's children, right? First and foremost. And second of all, because we are God's children, I don't express it this way during my job, but I said because we are human beings, our similarities will always outweigh our differences.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to find those similarities, but they're there. Like every single person has family members that they love. Everybody has fears and frustrations, and everybody has hopes and dreams. And every parent that unless there's something like really wrong with them, every parent that I know wants their children to have a better life than they've had.
Yes. To succeed.
And they want them to be successful and happy and safe. I'm like, those are commonalities. Those exist for all of us, no matter whether your last name is Matua or Ramirez. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Smith. Or so it doesn't matter. We always have things in common.
I love that. I love that. Thanks for bringing that up because I think in today's political climate, it's just start to look more and more at differences rather than looking more and more at our similarities, like you say. And like in Samoa, there's no such thing as 6 degrees of separation, is there? It's
Yeah,
more like 3 or 4. And
or one.
and they say, hey, it's funny. They say, don't marry anybody in the village because they may be related to you. But
Uh-huh.
then you go to another village and you're like, oh yeah, I'm related to those people as well. So
Yeah, yeah,
we just need to understand maybe that Samoanness, I guess
yeah,
you would say, is no matter where we are, we know what it's like to be ostracized and outcasts in a society. So why would we, with God's children, treat other people the way that we don't want to be treated? I mean, it's
exactly.
the golden rule, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I'm like and so it's kinda worrying to me that sometimes Christianity is weaponized, but that's not a new thing, right? If you know your history,
Yeah, it's
Christianity's
always
been weaponized for millennia,
yes,
right? That's what the Crusades were about, that's what there's a lot, and I think one concern I have is for people who want to limit, censor, I'll just say it, to censor what we teach in schools because they don't like the fact that you might bring up slavery or they don't want you to talk about and I'm like, and there's this concern that if I teach about slavery, then I am blaming the white children in the room and making them feel
feel
bad because
uncomfortable. Yeah,
they feel uncomfortable. I'm like, oh no, no, no. Samoans, we were slaves to the Tongans and we also enslaved Tongans. And so this is a human thing. This is I mean,
yes,
there in Africa, some of the people who were selling black people as slaves were black themselves, right?
black people. Yeah, it's happened in every culture.
It happened in every culture and but the lesson needs to be that this is not how we treat each other.
Yes,
And that that has to be that everybody's a human being and deserve the same there shouldn't be like you don't get this because the color of your skin, or you don't get this because of your religion, or your immigration status, or your sexuality, or whatever. And so I think when we start saying we exclude you because, then we start going down a dangerous path because then everybody can find an exception for why someone should be excluded or treated as less than, and that's just not the way that should work. The other thing that worries me in education is pulling money away from our public schools and just this there just has been a real attack on public education across the nation with this administration, and the thing that concerns me there is one of the greatness factors, one of the things that makes the United States of America great has always been free public education, right? Because that's where our scientists and our engineers and our mathematicians, they've all come from this school system, right? There's no other country in the world that offers free public education in quite the same way that the United States has. And once we start saying, oh, you don't get to be educated because blah, 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 no matter what the blah, blah, blah is, then we start to take away from the greatness of this country. Right? Because I
yeah,
think about, Samoa, we were privileged, but there were a lot of children in Samoa who didn't go to school because their parents couldn't afford to pay the school fees,
that's
right? Or
right.
they only went but the one saving grace for Samoa is that those pastor schools where everyone is taught how to read. So everybody in Samoa, very, very few people in Samoa don't know how to read. They may not read English, but they know how to read in Samoan. They know
Yes,
how to read and write in Samoan, and that has to do with how strong the churches are. But there are so many people, I think, in Samoa who didn't get to live up to their potential, who didn't get to live up to contribute to our country in Samoa the way that they could have because they didn't have access to education. And so that's one thing I think we need to be aware of and try to protect in this country is that access to education.
yeah, yeah. I'm a product of public schools. You know, until
Yeah.
we moved to Samoa, we always went to public schools and it was great. The experience was great. Now, I would say this too. I grew up being the only Samoan kid in my entire class. Sometimes my entire school. If my older siblings moved on to, secondary schools and I was there by myself in elementary, me and poor Delsa Hunt, we were the only Samoan kids, brown kids in the entire school. So I know what it feels like. So it's interesting when I see people hold so strongly to the idea that, well, you're not a citizen or you're not this or you're not that, so you can't have what I have. That to me is like a throwback to either a caste system or something that just it's a man-made, it's a manufactured way of looking at life, when really
Yeah.
what we should be looking at is the humanity and treating everyone, like you said, as God's children.
Well, and when we start to look at it, like, how do you know that child's not a citizen just because they've got a brown face or they've got a
Yeah.
Mexican last name? You know, how do you know they're not a citizen? The other thing that's been really interesting to me in this whole immigration debate is what about people who come from Europe illegally or come
Yeah.
from countries like New Zealand and Australia and are white
All over.
or
Yeah.
here? It's not just people from Mexico who are or people who are Latin who are here illegally, and then my friend was born in Puerto Rico, and people would say, "Well, you're not a citizen." And she's like, "Well, I hate to break it to you, but Puerto Rico is a US territory and I
Yes.
am a US citizen." So there's assumptions that are made sometimes just in that because we fall into that trap of saying, "Well, you don't look like me, so therefore you must be blah blah, you must be
Yeah.
this or you must be that." And I just think too, I don't know, I guess I look at every kid out there and I think of them the same way I would as if they were mine personally. I want the best for them. They're our future. If we don't educate them and help them to grow and, you know, be ready for all the opportunities that might come their way, we're the ones that suffer. I always cheese the kids when I'm talking to my Ula Vale ones in the office. I'm like, I need you to be successful because you're my future. If you're not there, who's gonna pay for me? Whose taxes are gonna take care of me? Thank you very much.
Right.
And they just look at me like, "Oh my gosh." I said, "No, but seriously, if I don't encourage you to be your best, then I'm saying I don't care what my future looks like." Right?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
young people are our future, and for the most part, like, there are some kids that you just shake your head and think, "Gosh, I hate to I think you're one of those kids that has to learn it the hard way."
Yeah.
But I'm always so grateful to work with the kids that I work with. Every day I meet them and I talk to them and I'm so impressed by their spirit and how much they care about each other and how much they care about their communities and how willing they are to help out and the kind things that they do for each other or that you meet some kid and you think, "Oh, you're such a knucklehead," and then you find out they're coming to school
Situation.
they're coming to school late, 15 minutes late every morning because they have to drop off all their younger siblings at school, and they're basically parenting their younger siblings because their parents have to work, you
Yeah.
know, 2 jobs.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and sometimes they just want just like all of us adults, we like to know that somebody cares. We like
Yeah.
to know that we have a voice and that people are willing to listen to what we have to say, and when I see those things with these kids, I have such great hopes for the future of our country because they really are trying their best, but it's also interesting too because some of these kids are like you ask them, "Well, what are you interested in?" "I don't know." And a lot of them I tell them, "You may start something that no one else has even heard of at this point." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I'm like, "No, listen to me. Like 10 years ago, no one even knew what an influencer was.
Yeah.
These people are making all kinds
Yeah.
of money on some weird social
Yes.
media. They invented that. People invented that. And now we're all like fall into the trap of listening to them."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they've got these
They
big
made
com
an entire industry.
they've made an entire industry, and they've gotten these big companies to pay them to market their stuff in a new way. So I said, "Who knows what you might come up with?" No one knew what AI was a few years,
No one.
back or
Yeah.
even used it. So I'm always telling 'em, you may invent something that changes people's lives, but unless you position yourself to be ready for that opportunity or to recognize that opportunity, it won't happen. But so that's why education is important is to position yourself in the right place to
Yeah.
be able to recognize what is possible and
Yeah. Take every opportunity.
and
So
that's
what would you
great.
say is the best or the greatest part of your where do you feel a reward in your profession?
It's those interactions with the students and with the families, and knowing that in some small way I was able to help them. I tell new teachers when I work with them, the hard thing about being an educator is you very, very rarely see the harvest. So you start off and you plant, our kindergarten teachers, they plant this little seed and they nurture it and they water it and they try to take care of it. And then every year little plant,
You move on.
it moves on, right? And the same thing happens in high school. They move on and you never see the harvest. You never really get the chance to see them when they're an adult and they have a family of their own and they're successful in their career. And so every once in a while you get an opportunity to see that and it's mind-boggling how much of an impact you can have for good or for bad.
Yes.
And I tell them it's like, you know, you get up to the top of the mountain where those little streams of water begin. And at that point, if you place a pebble in the stream of water, you can redirect a river. But when you get down to where the river is and you throw your pebble in, it doesn't do anything, right? But when
Yeah.
you're at
No
the
impact.
beginning of their lives and you have such an impact for good, you can change the trajectory. And I always share with kids my own family story. My dad, his father was a minister for the LMS church, and he died when my dad was 5. So my grandmother went from having her kids and living in this, position of privilege where everybody took care of them because they were the Faife'au's wife and kids, to now having 5 children that she had to take care of her own. And she just had such faith in how education would be, the way that her children would be successful, right? So she always encouraged her kids to go to school. She really pushed them to go to school. And my dad was able to get a scholarship to go to Hawaii. And when he first went to CCH, Church College of Hawaii, back in the day in Laie, it was just a 2-year school. And then he finished his associate's degree and they had decided to expand it to a 4-year school. So they extended his scholarship and he graduated with his bachelor's degree. And then he went back to teach school in Mapsanga High School in
Mhm.
American Samoa. And my
Yeah.
mom had finished her mission, come home and taught, and then she went back and taught in Mapsanga. So I literally wouldn't be here if it weren't for education, right? But because my dad had that opportunity and he took it and he furthers, his education, and then later he came to BYU in Provo and did his master's degree because he did all the, and my mom graduated from college before she served her mission. So education's always been important. But I saw how, because of the opportunities my dad now had because of his education, how privileged I was growing up, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, if my grandmother hadn't pushed so hard on the importance of education, where we would be. But my point is that education changed the trajectory of my dad's life. And because his life was changed, ours were changed. Me and my siblings had opportunities and privileges afforded to us because he took on education. And so I tell kids, and when I'm working with them, look, education is not just for you, it's for who comes after you and who's beside you, right? Because my dad, one thing I really admired about my parents is that they spent a lot of time and resources and effort to not just help their own children, but they did the same thing for all my dad's family, help them go to school. And they did it a lot for a lot of the kids that my dad knew in Baysena. Like, I can't tell you how many times we had somebody living with us because my dad was helping them get their stuff together so they could go to Hawaii to school. And I know there was a lot of times where he was paying the fees to apply and he was helping them with their, their fare to go to Hawaii and all that, because he knew that those would be blessings for these people and that he wanted to pay it forward, and he certainly did that. I still have people I remember that talk about how much my parents helped them as teachers.
Yeah.
My favorite is one time when my mom and we got a chance to go to New Zealand, and so we decided to go to church in one of the Samoan wards in I think it was in Mangere to Relief Society, and the lady who got up to teach the lesson got up there and just started crying. She's like, "I'm so happy to see my teacher, Sister Hall." And my mom was like, I'm like, "My mom hasn't been Sister Hall forever." But
Yeah.
she, you know, and I have people who will tell me, "Your mom taught me how to sew, and because of that, I was able to sew the clothes for all my kids." And your mom taught me how to bake and cook, and your dad helped me do this, and it's the same thing I'm sure with all the other teachers at Baysela, that helped people along the way. There was just this feeling of education is important. Let's help these kids to get through this so they can get to the next level. And I think that lesson from growing up in Samoa in the church school system there has been a large part of how I've operated and conducted things in my career here as an educator in Utah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And I know you and I have talked to, we have many classmates and people that we went to school with during those times. I love seeing people that we went to school with. Anytime I see them and ask about how their life is going now. And man, I think that was one of the reasons that, or is one of the reasons why we're so driven sometimes outside of the United States, because nothing, no, I'm not saying that things are given easily to kids here in the United States, but I felt that when I moved there, that I had an out. I had an opportunity to go because I wasn't rooted in Samoa. My family was born and raised outside the United States. So knowing that, I knew that I had a responsibility to myself, to my family, to everyone, to use that blessing to be something different than what I could have been, you know? So, because we all have family members that don't have those opportunities or friends. So I look at it as a responsibility.
Oh,
What do
I
you
grew
think
up with
about that?
yeah, I think that there are certainly blessings of growing up in Samoa. Like, everybody is entitled to a piece of land to live on. Everyone is entitled to a piece of, you have your family land, so you have a place to live and you have a place to plant your food and grow your food and whatever. But everything else is hard won, right? Like I thought growing up that we were pretty rich, and then I look
Yeah.
at it now, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
we weren't as well
We're
off as I thought we were.
yeah, we're struggling a little bit.
Yeah, but, and even after my dad died, it was just my mom. We never went hungry. We always had what we needed, and I don't know. I just and I'm sure there were other families around us that had more or had less, but I think one thing I've always appreciated, and I don't know that Samoan people spend a lot of time sitting around going, "Woe is me.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't have this." It's like, "Well, get out and do something."
yeah, yeah.
You're not gonna,
I think that's
you're not gonna eat if you just sleep all day.
yeah. Yeah, I do remember, getting ready to go to school and seeing my cousins gather up their machetes and stuff and going to work on the Momanga. And I thought, man, I'm blessed.
Mhm.
And, it's funny, as I was listening to you tell your story to those who are listening in, I thought it was very interesting the parallels between your father's life and your own life, where it sounds to me like you were just surrounded by strong women who really motivated you guys, where the father figure was great when he was around, but unfortunately he was taken from you guys earlier in your life and you were kind of forced to just make it happen. And I've always admired that about your mom especially, but also about you and Salah and you guys are just all strong women just figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, and I think we were really blessed too to come to Utah and be able to feel more connected to my heritage here. The great thing I think about my parents is I never felt like they never made us feel like we had to choose. Other people might have said, "You're so palangi," or you blah blah, blah, whatever. But it was
Even
always
though you look like a palangi.
both cultures are equally important in our family, right? But when
Yes.
we came to Utah. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but my mom is a descendant of the Utah pioneers. My great great grandfather was one of the founders of Springville, and my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a Utah County sheriff for 17 years. So there's a lot of history and connections here. And I just have to be so, so grateful to my grandparents and my mom's siblings because we were never ever made to feel like we were less than because we're part Samoan. They loved my dad, and her whole family just embraced her and her husband and all of us little brown kids wholeheartedly. I remember when I got old enough, I asked my mom, "What did your parents think when you told them you were going to marry some Samoan guy?" It's not like she could pick up a phone back then. You got married in the
Right.
60s, in the middle of the civil rights movement, where
Yeah.
it was just barely legal for you to marry, if you were white, to marry someone of
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I got old enough to understand all of that, going back to your history, right? I was like, wow, my grandparents must have been really forward thinking or something. And she said, well, when she wrote to them and told them that they were engaged and they were going to get married, they just said something along the lines of that they trusted her judgment, and if she had chosen my dad, then he must be a good man. And I just thought, wow. But what I really think is that my grandparents lived their religion,
Yeah.
right? That they
Yeah.
were true followers of Christ and that they loved their neighbor and they tried not to judge. And so I'm really, really grateful to them for that because that was another great example to me is just how loving they all were to us every time we'd come from Samoa to visit. But I always joke about one of these days I'm gonna get myself, gathered up or whatever and go and up join the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. And say, "Here I am, a daughter of the Utah Pioneers. Here I am." I joke about it. My grandmother, my mom's mom, joined the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers because one of their emphases is to write family histories. So she did a lot of that. And I'm like, maybe start doing that, but start writing some of those histories of our Samoan side of the family.
Yeah, yeah, because there is a lot of rich history there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consider that generation. I always think about my home teaching companion when we first moved to Samoa was Percival Rivers.
Oh, yes. I love that man.
And yeah, and as this young deacon walking around, whether it was down in the lower village or in the upper village, we'd walk around and he would just talk to me and give me advice. And I thought, man, I need to learn more about this man. And come to find out, he was a member of the first stake presidency
Yeah.
in Samoa. I think he was the stake president.
He was the first state president when they first
Yeah.
organized it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just a phenomenal example to me of just Christ-like uh,
absolutely.
discipleship.
Yeah. So his son Versal and I were best friends growing up, and
Yeah,
I
such
was
a
always
guy.
over at their house. And I remember one time Sister River spanked both Versal and I because we got into something, and, just that kind of thing. We were always in and out of each other's house, and there weren't very many girls in the village, in the teachers' village that were my age, and so I was always chasing around with Versal. He was my buddy. One time he had a birthday, and Sister Rivers told him he had to invite another girl. He could have just invite me, and he was really put out because he didn't want to invite any other girls. He didn't like any other girls. And I'm like, "Well, I'm coming, aren't I?" And he's like, "Yeah, I like you." It was just kind of a gimmick, but it was just funny. But Brother Rivers, Sister Rivers and my mom were mission companions when she was served in her
Wow.
mission in Samoa. So we had that connection too. And I just remember how much they loved to dance.
Yeah.
Every time we had a ward dance, they would be out there foxtrotting all over the place and waltzing. And I was like, man, I don't even knew those steps existed, but they were pretty. They were pretty cool. But yeah, and just another great example of the kind of role models that we had growing up, right?
Yeah. Yep. There were a lot of great
Yeah,
ones.
and he's part Chinese. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
he told us when we were that, his father was an orphan and somebody those British sailors picked him up somewhere in China by a
Yes.
river, and
Yep.
so they called him Amu, which means river. And then no, that was that his I think it was, yeah, his grandfather maybe? Anyway,
Yeah, sounds about right.
when the New Zealand administration came in and they took over Samoa as a British protectorate, one of the things that was interesting under the New Zealand administration was if you didn't have a European surname, you couldn't go to any of the government schools. Like you couldn't go to Samoa College, you couldn't go to Pia
Yeah.
Primary, you couldn't go
Yep.
to Lacey, and you couldn't hold a government job. So that's why Brother Rivers has had to change his name. He changed it to Rivers so that because of that situation. It's also why by Purcell goes by Purcell because that's not
Yes.
his last name. He was chosen to go to school because his parents said out of his siblings he was probably going to be the best student, and so he took his mom's surname so that he could get into Samuel College. So
That's
all these
right.
things, right?
Yeah,
that are if you again, it's like, hey, you don't know your history, you didn't know that there was that kind of discrimination in Sam.
that's right. Yeah, it's part of our history as well. So
So
that's why I paid very close attention, to whenever people were talking about things like that because it's our history.
yeah, so, I mean, just even things like during the Mao movement, if the New Zealand I mean, they would just come in and toss all your stuff out and look, and if they found a green lava lava, then the adults in that household would all go to jail
Yeah.
because you were supporting the Mao. So, it's just a lot of I think if our own people are more aware of our own history and the things that our people went through, then maybe they'll be a little bit more think a little more critically about what they see going around them, right? And I think that's why
Yeah.
it's important to know history. Plus, you know what Bob Marley says, if you know your history, then you will know where you're coming from,
Yeah, that's right.
right? I always say that to kids, and I'm like, "And what song is that from?" They have to think. Some of them know. I'm like, "It's Buffalo Soldier. Go listen to it."
But you're so right. I mean, even kids in Samoa, I don't know if they even know nowadays that there's a reason why so many schools have the mua on their school
Mhm.
uniform.
Yeah,
It's a representation and in honor of those who sacrificed in the Mao movement.
yeah,
And so
absolutely.
many of the schools still do that today. I'm sad to see some of them don't even wear uniforms anymore, but that's just my old mentality, you know?
Well, I know, and I was, we one of the issues that we're facing a lot of this is every school in the United States is attendance, right? And kids just,
Yeah.
especially in high school, because we have an open campus and they just leave. We can't forcibly restrain them, and they just leave, right? Parents think that we should lock them up and not let them go, but we're not allowed legally. But I was telling somebody, I said, in Samoa, I remember when I was growing up, every school had a school uniform, and everybody in the community knew if you were wearing, the yellow and blue, then you were at Pesenga, and school didn't get out until 2. So if they saw you wandering around somewhere or trying to get on a bus, in your school uniform before school got out, somebody would tell you off. Where are you going, huh? Go back to school. School's not out yet. Don't
And it
lie to
was
me.
some stranger. You didn't even know who they
Yeah,
were.
they wouldn't even know who you were, but they'd be like, "Don't lie to me. Why are you cutting class? You better go back to school. I know who your parents are. I'm gonna tell them,"
Yeah.
and you'd be like,
Feel so bad for your parents.
"Yeah." So, yeah. And I was like, "So that,
No, I
that
love
helped
those
me."
days.
Yeah. I said, plus, I think because parents had to pay school fees in Samoa, it was like there was this sense of responsibility. Your
Yeah.
parents are wasting their money.
Yeah. Yeah. So think of your parents who they're out there planting the taro and raising the pigs, and you're over here making jokes
Yeah.
in class when you should be
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
It was such a, for me, coming from the United States, where I don't know, back then when I was a kid, growing up here in Utah, everyone was very respectful and
Yeah.
teachers were the law.
Huh?
And there was a lot of respect that was owed to them because of what they represented to us in
And
education.
their standing in the community was certainly
Exactly.
right, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are formulating our young minds,
Yeah.
thoughts and things that will help us in the future. Whereas and I started to feel that kind of going away as I get into junior high and then we moved to Samoa and I thought, man, is this a military school? And yet people were telling us Besenga is actually one of the ones that is a little more, they go easy on
Yeah.
their students.
Well,
And I
'cause
thought, man,
you weren't allowed to hit the students like you were in the
yeah,
government schools.
exactly. So I thought, man,
So,
again, I felt very blessed to grow up in the community and the environment that I grew up in for
absolutely.
many reasons. All
Absolutely.
right, you want to do a, oh, sorry, last thought?
No, no, go ahead.
I was just going to do a speed round before we end. But if you have
Okay.
any more thoughts, let's think about it. Let's talk about
Yeah. No, we could be here all night, Seti.
it.
You and I could just keep talking forever, but this has been great. This has been great.
I love it. And you're right. We could talk forever because I'm passionate about helping people. And I know you are too. Tell me, before we go into that, you actually teach and are an administrator in a school district and in a place where there's some hardship there.
Yeah. So
And I know that you had opportunities to go other places, but you stuck it out. Why is that?
I taught math at Bingham in South Jordan for 13 years, and then I worked in the district office for a couple of years as a secondary math specialist, and then I became an administrator, and I was at West Jordan High School. So, if you could they don't let you label schools as high need. They figure by the time
Yes.
you get to
Yeah.
high school that suddenly the needs have all gone away. I don't know why that is. But a lot of poverty, a lot of challenges with the kids, and also some real pockets of really high socioeconomic
Yeah.
families
Struggles.
in our same boundaries, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We had really rich kids and some really kids who are on free and reduced lunch and need all kinds of support. The thing I loved about West Jordan was I didn't see a lot of the cliques that I saw at other schools.
That's great.
The football kids would hang out with the esports kids.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of,
Or the
they were
skater
pretty.
kids.
Yeah, they were pretty accepting of each other, and, even the kids who I knew came from really wealthy families weren't, like, looking down their noses at the other students, and loved being at West Jordan, and it was just really a family. community. Copper Hills is larger. So at West Jordan High School, we had about 1,900 students. At Copper Hills, we have around 2,900, 2,800 students. So quite a bit bigger, but still a lot of the same community. Still in West Jordan, still a lot of some of the same issues. And because there are more bodies in the building, helps make things a little more complicated.
Yeah. Well,
But I think, but it's just there's such a rewarding feeling to know that you've helped a kid. Like I went to so funny. I went to have blood drawn the other day, and I ran into this guy. Goes, "Are you Noelani?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I didn't recognize him. I mean, he was in high school the last time I saw him. He's like, "You don't remember me, huh?" And he's telling me his story. Like he had been homeless, and all of these things, all these struggles that he went through. But he finally graduated, got his diploma, and he didn't graduate from high school, but he went back. I
his
used to work at
GED.
he got his went back to adult ed high school and got his diploma, and now he's like has a job with, at this clinic working as a technician. And I was like, I told him, I'm so proud of you. It's so, I said, you've just made my entire week to see you. And he's like, and then he said, "Can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Absolutely." I was going to say the same thing, but you get those moments. And I had another student
Yeah.
who brought his family to meet me. I mean, he came from his family he didn't have any financial struggles, let's put it that way. But there were some other things going on that
Yeah.
I knew there was something there, but I didn't know what it was. And he told me late that when he came to see, you really helped me get through high school just because you always had a joke for me and, took the time to talk to me. And he and his friend used to come and bug me every day at lunch, even when I didn't have him. And I'd
They
be
felt
like,
safe.
yeah, because they knew I wouldn't like go away. I don't want to talk to you. But it all comes back to relationships. And the thing too, is I mean, I helped them in some small way. My favorite memory as a teacher was I was teaching a class that was part of the students were had needed special accommodations, and the other part of the class were students who were at risk. And I remember we took our first test, and I was handing back the test, and I turned around, this girl that I'd handed her test to was crying, like she had tears pouring down her face. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's the matter? Are you okay?" And she said, "Sorry, I don't know what I did."
I still see you. I can still hear you too.
Okay, I
Yeah.
did something too. It's uploading something anyway. Well, I can't see
Uh,
you, but let's see.
sorry.
Oh, there we go. I accidentally bumped a different tab.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, "I know I didn't cut you off." Anyway, she was crying, and I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "I've never gotten a B on a math test in my life, ever." And I said to her, "But you did this. You did it. I didn't do anything. You did all of this." So, stuff like that where you help kids to see that they are capable.
Yes.
What's that quote that's attributed to Nelson Mandela about we are more powerful than beyond our belief, and we need to help our kids to understand their potential, see their potential, and what they're able to accomplish,
It's a
for
lot
sure.
to be said about hope, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Give
absolutely.
them hope. Give them a dream. Don't crush them. Let them
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. Well, it's been a wonderful conversation. We'll do our fast break here real quick, and then we'll end things. If you have any final thoughts, or even if these silly things spur a memory, we can definitely talk about that. All right. Favorite cuisine,
Chinese,
favorite vacation destination.
anywhere warm, preferably with a beach.
Yeah. Favorite food while at your favorite destination.
Anything I don't have to cook.
Yeah, I love that. Favorite musician.
Well, that's a hard one. I have such eclectic taste in music. It depends on what I'm listening to. It could be Bruno Mars today and, Van Halen tomorrow and Bob Marley the day after that. And you know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
and Green Day the day after that. So,
That's how our
yeah.
garage dances were back in the
Huh?
day. Yeah.
Right? Yep.
I'm not even gonna give you an opportunity to answer this one because I know your favorite school subject is math.
Yeah.
Maybe?
But my
What do
favorite
you
subject
think?
when I was in school was not math. It was English.
Nice.
But I decided I didn't want to teach English because I want to have to correct people's essays. Well, and there was a shortage of math teachers when I was in college, so I knew I was guaranteed I would never have to look for a job if I chose to teach math.
Yeah, that was the
So I
path, huh?
picked math, yeah, and I haven't regretted it. I think there was a time when I struggled with math when I was in elementary school, and I think that made me a better teacher.
I
because I
think
knew it.
teaching English would be harder than teaching math.
Yeah, that's what I decided too. I was like, it was because somebody asked one of my classmates asked me if I'd look at their paper and help them edit it, and I was like, I don't know where to start. I mean, and I just wanted to like my instinct was to like rewrite the paper for them, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do
Yeah,
that? It's your
yeah.
paper. But I just didn't know how to I just didn't know how I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna teach English." I love literature, and I love reading, and I love writing and talking about those things, but I don't know that I could be an English teacher.
All right,
Yeah.
your go-to person when you need to vent.
Probably my older sister, Nita. Yeah.
That has a great heart, doesn't she? Your go-to person when you need to laugh.
Huh. Probably my granddaughter, Leah. She's 4, and she's funny. Plus, she makes me feel good. Every time I see her, she throws her arms up in the air and yells, "Grandma Nani!"
Don't you
So,
love it?
yeah, I love it.
The
But she's
girls, my granddaughters do that for Jen. They definitely don't do that for me.
You just spoil them a little bit more. Buy 'em more
Yeah.
stuff. Just kidding. No,
Stop having a frown on my face.
grandmas have a special place in those kids' hearts, I've decided.
Yeah,
Grandpas too, but it's a little different.
it's different. Yep. They know grandpa's there to protect, but they know that they'll always get love from grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually get down on the floor more with them, Seti, and wrestle them around and play. Then they'll do the same for you.
That's right. Next item on your bucket list.
Oh, I wanna go to Samoa and take my son and his family with me. I want them to like, I took Jerem to Samoa right before he started high school, like,
Mm, that's
'cause I
been a
told him I
while.
wanted him yeah, it's been a while. It's been, quite a while. So I told him, "I want you to see where your roots are. Yours are a little shallow because they haven't hit the Samoan soil, but I want you to see where I grew up and have a better understanding of where I'm coming from."
Yeah.
And my oldest granddaughter, Kimberly, she's funny. She's always telling her mom. She used to tell her mom all the time, "Mom, you know how I'm Samoan? You're not." And I just think it would be fun to take them there. Jen really wants to go to Samoa. She's always talked about that, and I think it would be nice to go there and spend a month, and just
Yeah.
bum around. And I know every time you post pictures of you and Jen in Samoa, I get a little jealous. But I also want to take them. I also want to take them to meet family, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's so necessary. We took all of the kids back in 2019, right before the measles outbreak and then eventually COVID. So we were very lucky. Indian was on a mission at the time, so we had to take him at a different time when he came home. But man, I think we came back from that trip. We didn't really talk about it too much, but I
Uh-huh.
think my sons had a different perspective and a greater appreciation for not only me but also who they are and their
Yeah.
culture. Yeah.
For Jerem, I
So I
think
hope
it
that
was
happens for you.
yeah, when because he was young, he was, like, 13, 12, 13, something like that, and just the fact that everybody accepted him and his cousins just kind of wrapped him up and, "Let's go
Yeah.
do this," you know? There was no awkwardness or I have to get to know you or we have to talk all whatever. The other
Yeah.
thing that was interesting too is, because he was such a picky eater, I told him, "Hey, when we go to Samoa, you have to eat whatever they give you because they're gonna give you the best of what they have, so you have to eat
Right.
it, because it's bad manners in Samoa if you don't." And he really took that to heart. After about it after 3 or 4 days, I said, "Dude, you have been such a trooper. Let's go to McDonald's." Of course, we took all the cousins with us to McDonald's, so they were all excited about that, but yeah, but it was a good experience for him, and then we went to New Zealand right after that, and he had the same experience with the cousins in New Zealand. And that's what
Yeah.
I would love for my grandkids to have an experience of is that family connection, so
Yeah, I think every Samoan who was born and raised outside of Samoa or who hasn't been back for a while,
Mhm.
you need to go back and
Yeah,
go with an open mind too, especially if you haven't been there before, to listen closely, observe the people, and just soak it all in.
yeah, yep,
So
absolutely.
much to be said about that. All right, last one. Person you want to meet first in heaven.
My dad. Yeah. I hope that he's proud of us, not just me, but my siblings and the things that we've accomplished. I always look at our children and my grandchildren, my siblings' grandchildren, I look at the nieces and nephews and I just think, man, if my dad had been alive when these babies started coming along, they'd all be living at his house. He would have taken them all and, that typical Samoan grandparent where, "Give me the baby, they're gonna stay with me,"
Yeah. Yep.
but I have no doubt that he met all of them before they came to us,
For sure.
and that he's been keeping an eye on us. So grateful to know that our loved ones they're aware of what we're doing. Sometimes it's like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah, just to know that our family ties don't end with death, that they're
Yes.
always present and always will be.
Thank you so much for being so honest and open. Any final thoughts from you before we end?
No, just that, I know sometimes our Samoan people can be pretty divisive, and
Yeah.
and I would just pray that we would all come together and support our kids and help them to be better people and to have better futures. And some of that I think is becoming more involved with your kids' schools. Like go and
Yeah.
meet their teachers, go and talk to people and find out, don't
Go volunteer.
go volunteer, especially the elementary school. They love it when people
Yeah.
come and volunteer. But there's always work to be done in our communities. There's always ways to reach out and help those around us. And I think we can't just exist in our little pockets.
Yes.
We have to reach out to our neighbors who are not Samoan
Yeah.
and share that bounty of love that we have in our hearts with them too. We have so much to learn from them and they have so much to learn from us. And I think,
Yes.
the one thing I love about our people is how loving they can be and how accepting they can be. And that is such a message that is we have great need of that in our communities here in Salt Lake and here in Utah, around the world.
Yes. Yep. Wherever you are.
Wherever you are. So don't be content to live in your little pocket. There's always good that you can do. Reach out. You'd be surprised. Just even stuff like one thing I've really tried to do is just to look people in the eye and smile at them and say good morning or good afternoon. Even if I'm like, I read a thing one time about, somebody saying how impactful that was. And that was the only positive interaction they had that day and how uplifting it was. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, if my goofy smile can make one person feel better about themselves for a few
You should
minutes,
do it more often.
yeah, I need to do. And the thing too is the thing about being kind and reaching out in small ways like that is you think you're doing them a favor and actually that you're actually benefit just as much, if not more, by
Yeah.
that from that positive interaction. So
I agree. And
yeah.
sometimes it's not reciprocated,
Yeah.
but it's not up to you. It's not up to you how they feel about that interaction, but at least you can walk away from the interaction thinking, I
Yeah.
tried my best. Maybe they can, from that,
And
it may sow just a seed in their hearts that, like,
yeah.
okay, maybe I should be different.
And acts of kindness don't have to be like huge things. It could be you held the door for them and said good morning, or you offered to help them carry their bags out to the car, or can I take your cart? You took all your groceries out. I'll take the cart for you, so you don't
Yeah,
have to return it. Just stuff like that. Just little things, or just I think it's those little acts of kindness that help people realize that hey, I'm seen. People notice that I'm here.
I
I don't know.
exist.
I
Yeah,
exist. Plus, I said, you can't when you smile at someone, you can't be mad, right?
yeah,
You're smiling and, it makes you feel good too, so there's always
absolutely.
that as well.
Thank you so much, Noe.
You're
It's been a wonderful
welcome.
conversation.
Thank
We
you.
got to do it again. I say that to everybody who comes on because it feels like we're walking away from a half
Absolutely.
finished conversation. So
Uh-huh.
let's do it again.
Absolutely,
We'll
this
have
was
other things
fun.
to talk about,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
look forward to that.
well, give my love to your family and
Yeah, absolutely.
enjoy
I
those
will.
grandbabies. How many granddaughters do you have now?
We have 5.
You have 5. See,
Yep.
no boys yet?
No
No
boys yet.
grandsons? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got
But
all the grandsons in
honestly,
the first you got all the sons in the first generation, so the
that's
males are taken.
right.
Now you got all the girls this generation.
Yeah. They need to soften us up a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I
you're
love
gonna
you, Noelani. Thank you
love
so
you
much
too.
for
Thanks so
everything.
much. You're absolutely welcome, and yeah, let's do this again for sure.
Yeah.
I'd be up for it.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll find a time. We'll have more things to talk about. Maybe we'll invite your sister and she can just laugh the whole time we're talking.
Yeah, Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Have a wonderful evening. We'll talk
You
again.
too.
And for those of you who are listening, please help us out. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Share this with everyone. We're trying to get as many followers as possible, subscribers as possible. So do us a favor and spread the word for us. Enjoy your evening. We'll talk again soon. Love you, Noi.
Love you too, Seti. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.